Okay, so I was bored sitting here in my home all day when I came across a movie online that looked interesting called Nightmare Alley. It had a pretty high rating, and the name suggested that it was some sorts of a horror film. And believe me, a few minutes into the movie, I was anticipating the horror, but it never came. The movie was much more deeper than that. Like, holy shit, the foreshadowing, the character revelations at the ending just blew me away. The movie starts off with the man burying a body in a home before burning it down and running off to join a circus. After witnessing the grotesque acts of a geek who are homeless people with an opiate addiction, the man, Stan, spends his entire time in that carnival learning various acts of mentalism and eventually falls in love with the girl there. They both decide to leave their carnival life behind right after Stan accidentally kills his mentor by giving him the wrong bottle of alcohol. 2 years pass and Stan and his now wife Molly host a very famous mentalist show in the city. Stan is challenged by a woman who sees right through his tricks, but Stan still has the upper hand and proves her wrong while also humiliating her in front of a large audience. The woman turns out to be a psychologist working for a very high-level bureaucrat, one of which hired her to test Stan. From here onwards, Stan uses his tricks to fool people, eventually reaching the point where he ends up murdering them and losing all that he ever had, including his wealth and wife Molly. He becomes a drunkard bum and heads back to the carnival to start over, but that does not happen, and instead he becomes the geek himself. The film explores various forms of sins of man, most particularly being greed, lust, pride, and wrath, which are all the characteristics of Stan. He is a man filled with rage against his father for being an alcoholic, so much so as to murder him himself. He is a con man who robs people of their wealth by giving them false hope and prides himself in not drinking alcohol throughout the movie and considers himself better than anyone else who does. He even cheats on his wife. Eventually, everything comes tumbling down on him. Even though he becomes a geek at the end of the movie, his actions throughout the film suggest that he was always a geek due to the fact that he was a man who exploited other people's weaknesses to feel more powerful and did murder them in grotesque ways. It's just that in the end, this inner geek breaks the surface and comes out. Hence why at the end he says that he was born to be a geek. You can also say that Stan's tale is similar to that of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun without any sunscreen. And the same case is with Stan, whose mentor on multiple occasions reminded him to not go overboard with his tricks. He was also warned by his mentor's wife Xena and his own wife Molly, but of course he did not listen. Another particularly interesting character in this movie is Dr. Lilith, who is a psychologist who forces Stan to have his therapy sessions with her, eventually wooing him and making him drink again. She is a woman who has been hurt by powerful men in the past, as shown by her grotesque scar on her chest, and she uses her psychology degree to hurt people in positions of power, which is why she uses Stan to cause the murder-suicide of a judge and another wealthy man named Erza Grindel, who has a past of hurting young woman badly and could be the one who gave that scar to Lilith. She eventually gets revenge in the end when Stan murders him. Her hatred for Stan is deeply rooted in her when he humiliates her in front of his audience, hence she gives the act as if she is submissive so that Stan can lower his guard and she can find his weaknesses, which she eventually does, and shoots him in the ear, steals his money, and instills a sense of dread in him, making him question who's the one who is more powerful, Stan or her.